That's huge. Is don't be afraid to go and get too much. Now I made some music videos on my DIY cell phone shit, and I learned what that meant real time. Because if you don't get enough footage, you're reusing a lot of stuff, and it's not going to be like the good thing, and then people to b-rolls and other things. So effectively, it's like really important to like actually capture as much as you can to create the best final product, giving you the engineer a lot more to work with. What about like ad-libs and all that shit? How important is that? Like in, like, was this like a huge conversation point?
Yeah, I mean, honest. All right, so first off, I'm gonna give you the master of ad-libs. I had the pleasure of working with Public Enemy, right? And it was for a song, the He Got Game, basically. So not only did I meet Hank Shockley and
Fuck, you
that
worked
whole
on that
squad,
shit? That's fucking
that whole
amazing.
squad, yep. And I learned a lot from them too. But I also got to meet Chuck D, who's one of my fucking heroes too. He's a phenomenal MC. But then he came in and did his part. So this is how they worked. They don't really get along too well. So, and I assume that's from years of touring and the fact that Chuck D is a very mellow, cool dude, and Flavor Flav is a little crazier, a lot more outlandish. You know what I'm saying? So, like, he would leave the studio, and then Flavor Flav would come in. But where most people would be like, okay, so play the song, and I'm gonna go through the ad-libs. He was like, nah, I don't need to hear all of that. As a matter of fact, I don't want to hear the song. He goes straight into the booth, and he's like, yo, play me the next 4 bars. And they'll play the first 4 bars. He'd be like, play it one more time. He's like, cool, record me. And then he gives you the ad-lib for those 4 bars, whether it's 2 of them, 3 of them, or just 1. Then he's like, okay, I like that. Let's go to the next 4 bars. So he literally is like, let me listen to it. I don't want to hear it because I'm trying to accentuate what he's saying. So I just want to hear what he's saying and with the beat, and then I'm going to just figure out what's a good ad-lib for that. Just that piece of that section. And I thought, like, that's fucking genius. You know what I mean? If you didn't write the rhyme and you're doing the ad-lib, that is absolute genius because you're giving full attention to a few lines so that you could actually give the best deliverance or performance to fill in that gap with an ad-lib. You know what I mean? So I always found that phenomenal. Now, if you wrote it, you should be able to accentuate it yourself, but it might behoove you to be like, yo, I doubled words, but now I'm gonna do the actual ad-lib. I'm gonna just listen to this piece till I'm like, oh, I know what's perfect to put in here. You know what I'm saying?
That's the way the ball bounces, G.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's genius work.
Yo, honestly, I have struggled with ad-libs the entire time I've done songs. It is the hardest part in the world for me, and I think you just gave me a tip that I'm gonna go fucking try.
I'm telling you, it's gonna work. You're gonna, and it makes your job easier. There's no pressure now, and there's no really messing it up. You know how you go through and you be like, oh, I like all of these ad-libs except for this one, and like I fucked it up. And then people will be like with the whole one take shit, and then they erase them. It's like, nah, just do it a piece at a time if you're not sure, and boom, it'll be perfect every time. Unless you wrote it. If you wrote it, then I would say, yo, be a little bit free with it and do it. But sometimes, just like yourself, you might be better off just doing it a section at a time and being like, yeah, this is the perfect ad-lib. And sometimes you don't need the ad-lib. So take that into account too.
Let's expand on that. You're a professional. We're talking OG with all the credentials you could possibly fucking have at this. When should somebody veer towards ad-libs, and when should somebody veer away from them, in your opinion, based on sounds and styles and shit?
So I'm gonna tell you, first of all, you should always do ad-libs, just because you can always take them away if you don't like them. You know what I'm saying? Now, there'll be a case, and I will say this too. There are cases where you shouldn't double a word, you shouldn't add ad-libs, you know what I'm saying, at all, because your performance, your vocal performance on the lead is enough. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing to take into consideration. You don't always have to double words and do this. If your performance of the lead vocal is absolutely stunning and spectacular, and you listen to it and you're like, damn, that's dope, maybe you don't need to add no other stuff onto it. You know what I mean? But you have to It's just observing things. And honestly, when you're making an album, you know, these are things that you should take into consideration. You know what I mean? Like, I've learned that you don't want everything on the album to sound the same, but and one of those ways is to do something like that. I got this one song where I'm telling a story, but instead of me adding ad-libs and all of this other stuff, I added sound effects and left my straight vocal as the main vocal.
Did y'all just hear what he said there? That was huge. I mean, he said a lot of huge things, but he said an extra huge thing, in my opinion. Sound effects are ad-libs, and that's how they need to be treated.